Hello, everyone, and welcome to Organic Matters, the podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. I'm joined this week by Rebecca Harris, a farmer from Wicklow. Rebecca, thank you very much for being part of the podcast.
Hi, Hannah. Nice to be here.
Rebecca, give us a little bit of the lay of the land. Whereabouts in Wicklow are you farming, and what are you farming?
So, we are a closed suckler herd of Angus beef. I have about 230 animals on the farm at the moment. It's on 800 acres, and I'm in Ashford in County Wicklow.
That's amazing. That's a lot of range, a lot of cattle. When did you take it over?
So, I actually grew up on the farm, but we leased it for years, and I was doing something completely different. I wasn't farming at all. I had a few young children, and my father actually, when he left school, he went into ag college, but never did anything with it. I think the plan was for him to take over his family dairy farm, and he realized that there was a cap really on the amount you could do on the farm, and he wanted to do other things, so he got into business. But I guess as his business, he's actually done very well, and his my other brother has taken over the business, and he just decided that he wanted to see what he could do with the land we were sitting on. So decided to take over the farm, and he wanted to do it in a very sustainable way. So I guess that's why it just made sense to be organic from the start. And yeah, that's how it started about maybe 10 years ago.
And how did you get bitten by the bug? What? Oh,
Well, I guess because I was the only one that stayed on the farm. I love the farm. So he wanted, I guess, a bit of a helping hand. I went back actually and did the green cert. And yeah, I just love it now. Really like it. I guess when I was doing the green cert as well, and you do have a little bit of information on organics, but a lot of the information I was learning was about traditional farming. And because I didn't really know anything about farming, I was learning from my father and then pretty much going into an ag college and learning. I was actually a little bit, well, is this going to actually work on our farm the way we're going to do it? We don't house our animals at all. So they're outside all year round, and they're entirely grass fed. The calves are weaned naturally. We have two bulls that we were very particular about selecting, and they roam freely. Um, and I was wondering how we're going to make money, really. You know,
yeah.
you're a lot of the time you're just trying to, and the amount of land we have, you could have so many more animals,
Mm.
but it would only really, I wouldn't be able to put much more animals on the farm, to be honest. Um,
Without compromising, I guess, being able to outwinter them, which saves a huge amount of money and labor and time as well. There's compromises to everything. It's a balancing thing. And I don't think you learn that in conventional ag college. I had a similar thing, and they can be quite negative as well, especially if you're a beef farmer. They kind of look at you like, well, why aren't you a dairy farmer? That's what I felt
or
anyway when I
why do
went
you
ag.
only have that amount? Because I would have
Yeah,
started smaller, because you don't want to start buying in a load of animals and then realize, oh geez, that's way too much.
exactly.
You want
Yeah.
to start small and make sure you're reaching a point where it's going to work. Um, but definitely I would have had that kind of, oh gosh, am I doing the right thing? Because you're
Mm,
hearing that what you could have so much more animals, and but the farm just works.
mm.
It just works for this. I guess we are at sea level. We have great areas in the wintertime where I can feed them
Yeah.
without damaging the land.
And
And
do you
I've,
put bale? Do you roll bales out for them, or how do you feed them in wintertime?
yeah, so we cut all our own silage, and then that silage is used in the wintertime. We have roadways going right throughout the farm, so we don't have to even drive onto the pastures. So we're keeping them nice and as clean as possible. Now, they are moved very frequently. So the whole farm was divided into pastures, and we move them quite regularly. So we don't dose or give any drugs to any of our animals at all. Um, and I guess if they did really get sick, we we obviously you need to. But I wouldn't sell that animal then under Ballyhenry. Angus.
And we'll talk about the Ballyhenry thing in a minute, but you've really prioritised a high health herd. And Angus would be known for being hardy, but yours sound particularly hardy and able for farming.
And I guess when we were going into it and researching which was the best, what we should use, I guess we picked Angus for that reason, that they were hardy. Now, every copse we have, or every pasture we have, has a copse. So there's a lot of trees. I think we have about, at this stage, 200 semi-deciduous trees per animal. So we'd be completely carbon neutral. But as well as that, as well as the environmental thing, it's perfect for shelter. They naturally go in there when they're maybe calving, because I could have a calf in the middle of winter. I don't have a calving season at all. So I think that's what, it's just the way it's just laid out. It's taken time, but at this stage, it's now seems to be just clicking in and it's all working. So at the very start, when we bought in our herd, that's when we would have had issues with health, because we had bought in animals that may have come in with illnesses, things like that. But the fact that it's been closed for so long, they're moving so frequently, so they're not eating where they've been essentially crapping. There's no dosing, anything like that. I think the weaning as well, the natural weaning is very, I guess, a healthy way of doing it, and maybe the way they naturally would have done it. So when she comes into calf again, she kicks off the first calf nearly herself. So, and then of course we've built up our sound 100 breeding females. So we don't even intervene at all when they are calving.
Yeah,
and
because
then
Angus would be known for very easy calving, and they don't have horns, they're polled. So they'd be known for that and very kind of self-sufficient. So break it down for me. You have 100 breeding females, then how many breeding bulls would you have? And then how many would you be working on finishing then to send to for beef?
So I guess with the numbers we have, it's just 2 bulls. And then we have our 100 breeding females. And then the rest are the yearlings and the ones bringing on for selling on.
And how many cattle would you finish every year, would be sent to, say, a factory or an abattoir or a butcher?
Well, I would probably like to be sending more to Avoca. So hopefully that will be happening, because of the word of mouth is actually pretty strong, I guess, with the green agenda, and people are conscious of what they're eating, and the way Avoca are marketing it is helping. So I'd like to be selling all the yearlings every year, but at the moment we're selling about maybe 4 to 6 monthly.
Okay,
that's the numbers. Yeah.
And I guess you've mentioned Ballyhenry and you've mentioned Avoca, and it's really exciting what you're doing. So tell us first about Ballyhenry and how that started and where it's taken you.
So I guess we've been to many different outlets before we reached the Avoca, and we just, I guess, if you're can encourage people to come and see the farm and see what we're doing. We just found somebody in Avoca that was like, okay, this is what we need.
First of all, was it that you worked on your Ballyhenry brand? Is that what came first, branding your meat as Ballyhenry and hooking up with a local butcher? And is that how you started selling your meat direct, first of all? Or did it start with Avoca first and selling it direct through Avoca? What came first?
No, so at the start, it was just being sold as organic meat.
Yeah.
Now, I just, it was going into the organic factories. It wasn't branded as Ballyhenry at all. It wasn't going to work if we carried on doing it like that, because we're an 800-acre farm with that amount of animals. It wasn't much of a difference in price selling conventionally. So I just thought, with the efforts that we were putting into the farm and the way we were rearing the animals, and just that we're addressing any issues that you may have, like animal welfare or pollution and animal health, and even the carbon issue, that we needed to market it above just organic. It's just going into the factories and just, so that's when we started marketing ourselves. We actually made a book, believe it or not, just a picture book with all of our points of view, which was really helpful when you're having farm visits and you're trying to find the right outlet. It's now out of date because that book was made, God knows how many years ago. I'm going to have to come out with another one. The herd looks so much better now because all the animals are reared on the farm. There's no original herd. So I'd say they're nearly all I'd say 85% Angus, whereas the original herd would have been half Frisian.
Okay.
So we would have bought in a Frisian herd with 2 pure Angus bulls.
Yeah.
But at this stage, but you need a bit of Frisian as well. You need a bit of the milk. You need, so that's what we did. And then we found Avoca, and they came down and made an amazing video of the farm. We were also, before that video, we were on Ear to the Ground, which really was very helpful when you're trying to get out there and explain what you're doing.
Yeah.
So anything like that was helpful. We're actually always we're on the farm of Ashford Studios as well.
Cool.
So that became very interesting topic for maybe an article in a newspaper, where the home of the Vikings is also the home of 200 Angus. So we were in the Independent with that.
But it takes a lot of bravery from you as well, because not a lot of farmers sell their meat direct or are willing to enter into, I guess, contracts or deals with, any other kind of outlet there, whether it's a knowledge thing or a lack of experience. So how did you find that whole process dealing with other businesses?
I guess it was just not really. It was just something I knew you had to do from the start. So it wasn't an issue of being scared of it or anything. It was just like, this is the common sense thing. This is what we have to do if we want it to work. We have our unique selling point. I believe it's a special product. We put a lot of work into how we're doing it. And, if you're thinking of your health and the health of the animal, I just thought it made sense. If you believe in your product, that it wasn't really an issue of being scared. It's just this is it.
Yeah.
I'm being truthful, and this is what I have. And if I just thought everyone should like it, because I do. Whether that was, I don't know, a bit naive, I don't know, but that's the way I went with it.
How long have you been selling to Avoca now?
It's about maybe 3-4 years, something like that. Yeah, so relatively new. So hopefully that continues to grow. And at the moment, we are trying to go for planning for a private abattoir on the farm. I just think you're going to all this effort, and then we put them into a trailer and send them to the nearest small abattoir, which actually isn't that close at all.
Yeah.
And these are animals that we go through them every day. They're very docile, but we don't handle them. We don't put them through crushes that frequently for their TB test. That's about it. So I'm just not liking the idea of putting them into trailers at the very end. You reach the very end of rearing them. Now I think that's going to be a bit of a mountain to get planning for a small abattoir, and it's going to be costly. It is an existing farm building, so I'm just repurposing it, which helps. So that is my project at the moment, my future plans. So if I could do that now, I would be so happy to have everything from start to finish on the farm, and they leave me on the farm.
Yeah.
That'd be super.
But you hear more about small abattoirs closing down rather than opening. But again, it's just something that makes sense to you in your head as part of your farm life.
Yeah, and when I'm trying to get help and information, it's quite hard because there's nobody that's done this recently, and I can't find planners that has ever done an abattoir. So I'm just going to plug away, maybe get as much advice as I need, pre-planning meeting, and just see where it goes. Hopefully it will work.
That's the big plan. There, before we finish up, is there anything else that you'd like to mention about your farm or where people can find the meat?
Well, it is going to Dunboyne and Avoca. You can go onto my website, www.ballyhenryangus.ie. So you'll see where the other Avoca stores where it is. But if you ring any of the guys in the butchers in Dunboyne, they will deliver it to any of the Avoca stores closest to you. So, yeah, that's it.
That's brilliant. Well, Rebecca, thank you very much for that. And for everyone listening, you've been listening to Organic Matters, the podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. And there are lots of other podcasts as well. We're on season 3 of Organic Matters now. So there's plenty in the back catalogues to listen to from your podcast platform of choice. And for more on organics, you can visit www.irishorganicassociation.ie. But for me, Hannah Quinn Mulligan and Rebecca here, thank you very much for tuning in.